My whole body is still shaking, and I am in shock because we just got done watching one of the greatest playoff games I've ever seen in my entire life by Victor Wembanyama. He finished the game with 41 points and 24 rebounds. And even more than that, he was clutch. He hit big baskets, big free throws, an incredible 28-foot three-pointer to send the game to double overtime, a block to pretty much seal the game. He dominated this game in every facet, and I've scarcely seen anything like it. You had the MVP of the league on the other side of the court, and it was clear who the best player was in this basketball game. Wemby watched SGA win MVP before this game, and it's something we saw in the past when Hakeem had to watch David Robinson win the MVP years ago, and Hakeem went out and dropped a 41.16 masterclass. Victor Wembanyama did that same thing tonight. He played mad, he played angry, and he played 49 minutes. This is a series that we were anticipating like crazy because these were clearly the two best basketball teams in the league. And I picked the Spurs coming into the series because of what they've shown throughout the beginning parts of this playoffs and what they showed against the Oklahoma City Thunder throughout the regular season. When you watch these two basketball teams on the court, the Spurs present problems for the Thunder that the Thunder aren't able to solve. And so much is going to be talked about Wembanyama versus Shai Gilgeous Alexander. Shai really struggled in this basketball game for the first half. He had 4 points, was 1 of 5 from the field. The Spurs got off the 7-0 lead, but Alex Caruso for the Oklahoma City Thunder had one of the best games by a role player I've ever seen in my life. He was keeping the Thunder in it. He finished the game with 31? Yeah, 31 points on 8 3-pointers, and was really the only reason the Thunder were in this basketball game. But the Spurs just kept coming and kept pushing and kept going, led by Victor Wembanyama, and there's been a lot of question marks. Will this guy be able to play big minutes in the playoffs? Will he run out of gas when it matters most? Will his body and that size be able to take an intense, long playoff run where he's playing huge minutes? They just got done with a pretty hard-fought series against the Minnesota Timberwolves, a team that's physical, good on the defensive end of the court, and the Spurs came out tonight and bullied the Oklahoma City Thunder. I was so impressed by what I saw, and I feel way more confident that the Spurs are going to win this series even than I did before it started. And it's mostly a testament to what Victor Wembanyama was able to accomplish. Before we get into the rest of this video, we just hit over 1,400 subscribers, so if you love the NBA, make sure you take a second to subscribe. But let's get back to the game. So like I said, Spurs get off early in this game to a 7-0 run. And it felt like they had momentum. You have a lot of question marks. The Oklahoma City Thunder hadn't played in like a week and a half. And there's always that question, rest versus rust. The Spurs are coming off very little rest. They're tired. They just got out of that series like I talked about, and the Thunder have been resting for a little while. So you never know how a game's going to start in that. Is one team going to be tired? Is one team going to be rusty? Well, the Spurs came out hot. The Thunder came rolling back, had it 27-27 at the end of the first. Stephon Castle was balling. Alex Caruso was balling. As we got into the second quarter, it was like watching two heavyweights the entire game just go back and forth. You know, some of your classic all-time boxing matches that it's like just a slugfest, and you can't believe by the end of the game that both teams are still standing, especially in overtime of this game. It was like every time the Thunder would go on a run, the Spurs would punch right back, and Wemby would come back and hit that 30-foot three-point shot. Then the Spurs would go on a little run. Jalen Williams hit a crazy three-pointer. Alex Caruso was hitting shots. SGA had a couple nice plays in overtime at the end of the fourth quarter. He kind of got rolling in the second half. But all in all, Dylan Harper, don't even get me started on that guy. 24 points, 11 rebounds, and what stood out, and 7 steals for the game. The Spurs were playing like a zone defense, and it was kind of messing the Oklahoma City Thunder up. But a lot of times Harper was kind of playing in between. Thunder would have two. I wish I had a little court I could point out right now. But Thunder would have one guy in the corner, one guy in the wing, and Harper was playing like in between them and the guy driving to the basket. And I don't know how many times it felt like SGA or someone would drive and they try to kick out, and Dylan Harper would jump that passing lane. Unbelievable stuff from a 20-year-old man, 20 or 21-year-old player in his very first season, very first playoff run out of Rutgers. Highly impressive basketball game. And you got to remember, the Spurs were without De'Aaron Fox. And that matters a lot to me with the fact that this game went to double overtime. They could have used an extra body, especially you're talking about an all-star level player in De'Aaron Fox, another guy to dribble the basketball, create shots when guys start to get tired. We know the Thunder defense is, very, very aggressive. They're going to foul you. They're going to play physical, and it's hard to continually bring the ball up the court. And we saw some turnover issues. Stephon Castle had 11 turnovers in the game. He also had 11 assists, 17 points. But we saw them putting so much pressure on Stephon Castle that it made it difficult. And if you could have had a player like De'Aaron Fox, I think that really would have helped the Spurs win this game. But they were still able to pull it out anyway, 122 to 115. So getting back to the first half, we saw that first quarter tied at the end of the first quarter. And in the second quarter, the Spurs started to make a run. They were up 51-44 at halftime. Wemby had 14 points, 10 rebounds. Caruso had 16 points. And SGA had 4 points on 1 of 5 shooting. And Wemby was dominating the basketball game when it came to that matchup, SGA versus Wemby. This was a heavy discussion all season. One, who's going to win the MVP? Wemby, SGA. Jokic was also in the running for that. Luka was discussed at times. But those were your two primary players. But the bigger discussion for me has been who is the best player on the planet? Because we saw the way that Jokic went out in round 1 to the Minnesota Timberwolves, and it felt like whoever won this matchup between Wemby and SGA and showed out in the playoffs was able to claim that crown without really much debate. Well, Victor Wembanyama has proven in the playoffs, to me, to clearly be the best player on the court. And it's just even more so than just this game. When you watch these two players and the impact they have on their basketball teams, it's unbelievable. Wemby's defensive impact, obviously, I know it's so talked about, but towards the end of the game, Wemby is standing in the middle of the paint, and Thunder player after Thunder player is driving, seeing him stopping and kicking out, and totally disrupting everything the Oklahoma City Thunder wanted to do because of Wemby's presence in the paint. And I think he only finished with 3 blocks, which is light for him, but I mean, plus 16 for the game. He was the best player on the Spurs in that category. 14 of 25 from the field, 12 of 13 from the free throw line. And what I absolutely loved from what I saw is the fact that Wemby was getting down on the block and dominating this game in the post. We know that Wemby is very capable of hitting the 3 ball. Went 1 of 2 tonight. Didn't shoot a whole lot of them. That one he hit was one of the clutchest shots we've seen in a while. A 28-foot three-pointer, I think they called it. But he was getting down in the block and dominating this game, dunking over dudes, backing them down, hitting easy shots. And that's where I think he has become completely unguardable for the Oklahoma City Thunder in that matchup. They have no one. They don't even try to put Chet Holmgren on him. They didn't bring Hartenstein in to try him. They had Alex Caruso trying to guard him for a lot of the game because Caruso is just a strong player. Kind of creates a weird little matchup for Wemby in some ways. Also, another shout out to Caruso. They have him scoring 31 on one end, and he's asked to guard Victor Wembanyama on the other end of the court. Again, unbelievable game. And you get to the okay, so to start the third quarter, the Thunder start to go on a run. And it feels like, okay, is this where the Thunder are going to show some of their championship DNA? The fact that they have been here before, and the Spurs punch back. They finish the quarter tied at 29-29. Obviously, the fourth quarter goes the way of the Oklahoma City Thunder, but you're looking at the end of the fourth quarter. You had Caruso hit a 3. Champagnie ripped a 3. It was unbelievable. Then Wemby came down, hit an awesome shot to get a 2-point lead. SGA then drives to the basket, I believe got a layup to tie it up, send this game to overtime. And then Chet had a nice block on Wemby to send the game to overtime. We start overtime. It starts Spurs brick, turnover, air ball by SGA, turnover, and then Stephon Castle with an unbelievable dunk. Like I said, he started this game really hot. Great dunk in overtime. Dylan Harper, you could tell at times that he was starting to get a little nervous, but he was still playing unbelievable on the defensive end of the court. Finished the game with 24, 11, and 6, and 7 blocks, or 7 steals, I apologize, and was a plus 14 for the game. The young backcourt, It's funny. I did a video when the Spurs just beat the Minnesota Timberwolves, and one of my main premises of the video was, how do you continue to keep Dylan Harper on the bench with his level of production and his level of skill? At some point, this man has to be in the starting lineup and be getting serious run, because he is unbelievable. And Stephon Castle, like I said, had some high turnovers tonight. Maybe it wasn't his best game, but you still see so much talent. And, you bring De'Aaron Fox, you add another ball handler. I think the San Antonio Spurs are going to win this series in 6. I still think it'll be a long series. The Thunder are a very, very difficult basketball team, and we know that this is basically the NBA Finals between these two squads. Whoever wins this, I would strongly, strongly favor over whoever comes out of the Eastern Conference. Even though I like the Cavs and the Knicks have been playing unbelievable basketball, I think that this is clearly the NBA Finals. Keldon Johnson gave you 13 off the bench. We know he's 6th man of the year, really adding a lot. Carter Bryant hit a big 3. Luke Cornett gives you valuable minutes so Wemby can get a rest at times. So Julian Champagnie had 11 points. Devin Vassell, 13 points. And, Harrison Barnes played a few minutes. But I just wanted to touch on that entire Spurs roster because all in all, it was so impressive. And the way that Carter Bryant in particular had a stretch where he was guarding SGA. And, man, they gave SGA problems. It was hard for him to get looks. He finished the game 7 of 23 from the field with 4 turnovers and was a team worst minus 15 for the game. So I just think this is going to be a very interesting series. Again, I know every time a team wins game 1, it feels like you don't know how the other team's going to be able to hang. But I think the way that we've seen the Spurs beat the Thunder 5 out of 6 times this season, I just think they're the better basketball team. And they have the best player on the planet in Victor Wembanyama, who will finish his career as long as he's able to stay healthy and on the court in some very interesting conversations as one of the best players we've ever seen. Because if he has more games like what I saw tonight, I don't know that I've ever seen a basketball player dominate both ends of the basketball court more so than what Wemby did tonight. Just unbelievable. That's all we got for you about this game. I'm still shaky and can't believe what I just watched. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. Can't wait for the rest of this series. If you love the NBA, again, make sure you take a second to subscribe. Appreciate all y'all watching. Cyborg out.